Hey traders, it's Stephen Brooks, and today we're going to be talking about why you think that indicators don't work. Now, full disclosure, I do not use indicators myself, and I don't use them for any of my programs. The reason why I don't use them for my programs is, although they would be helpful, the average trader completely ruins them, and there's two reasons why. Number one, these indicators, RSI, MACD, Ichimoku clouds, the people who created those were not sitting in the same room at the exact same time talking to each other about what they're coming up with and figuring out how to best add them all together. They weren't. The guy who created RSI did it by himself. The guy who created MACD, which is another indicator, that guy created it by himself. The average trader thinks that one of the reasons the average trader thinks indicators don't work is because you use too many. You stack 5 or 6 or 7 indicators on top of each other. It makes your charts look like a Jackson Pollock painting. And at the end of the day, you saturate any chance you had of being able to find that one indicator that works very, very well for you because you mishmash them all together. You've all done that before, or you all know people who've done that before. The number one reason that you think indicators don't work is because you don't even use them properly. You're supposed to use one at a time because each of those was created independently of one another for a completely different purpose than another indicator. The average trader stacks them all together and just completely ruins it. The second thing is you don't give yourself a good chance of making money whatsoever after you follow these indicators. Let's say your 10 indicators that you stack together say buy this stock. Okay, people just go ahead and buy it. There's no rhyme or reason. They didn't consider things like volatility. They didn't consider giving themselves a positive risk to a reward ratio or a favorable trade where you have a high likelihood of making money like a simple options trade. So you take this half-baked information and stack it with a half-baked trade with no rhyme or reason, and thus the average person thinks that indicators don't work. So here's how we fix that. Number one, use one indicator at a time. Let me repeat that as I'm saying that. Use one at a time. Again, these indicators were not made in the same room at the same time by all these different people to feed off of one another. They were made independently of one another, and the purpose of these indicators was to be used by themselves. So find one that works very, very well for you, for what your goals are, for how much time on a given day that you want to go ahead and spend trading, and most importantly, one that you can use an online brokerage to scan for the opportunities so that you don't really need to go ahead in there and look at every single chart every single night. So find the one that you like and just use that one. Now you have a little bit of a clearer picture that you're using the indicator in the way it was supposed to be used, without other distractions. Now the signals that they give you will not only be much more conclusive of the other ones, but they will not have any competing ideas. So at this point, you've chosen one indicator, and let's say, as an example, you choose RSI, which is just a relative strength indicator, overbought versus oversold. So let's say you just choose one. Now you're just looking at RSI. That's it. You're just looking at one. Okay, now I have a clear picture. Now I don't have all these very saturated opportunities that are good out of 3 out of the 4 I have on my chart or 5 out of the 7 I have on my chart. That's not what we're looking for. That creates too much confusion in your head and also what the signals are trying to tell you. On top of that, you need to stack it with a trade that gives you a very high likelihood of making money. If you are buying stock based on an indicator such as RSI, you need to give yourself at least a risk 1 to make 3 type of situation. There are very few people in the world that can continuously over time produce trades that make money. One of the reasons is because the average person does not give themselves a risk 1 to make 3 or better on a stock trade. They do a risk maybe 1 to make a half of 1. They do maybe a risk 2 to make 1 type of thing. So if you stack misinformation, clouded information with a poor risk to reward ratio, of course, like in what world do you think you're going to be consistently profitable? But if you focus on one, and then if you're going to buy stock, you give yourself a risk 1 to make 3 situation, you're going to be at a way better spot. And if you're going to use options, our rule of thumb for options is you have to give yourself a better than 50% chance of making money. So in the stock scenario where you just like to buy and sell stock, Focus on one indicator. Don't cloud everything. Don't oversaturate your charts. Don't confuse the signals. Okay? Don't allow anything to compete with those signals. Stick to one. And just as this example, let's say you're sticking to RSI. And let's say you want to go ahead and buy or sell just stock with this one. You have to give yourself at least a risk 1 to make 3, because nobody's that good where they can continue to pick the direction of a stock over and over and over again. However, if you risk 1 to make 3, you have to be right maybe 3 or 4 times out of 10 to make money, which is much more reasonable for the average person. Or if you're going to use options, take the signal from one of these indicators and stack it with a trade that gives you a better than 50% chance of making money. If you remove everything else and you stick to one indicator, if you're going to trade stock, give yourself a risk 1 to make 3, or if you're going to trade options, give yourself a better than 50% chance of making money, I can almost guarantee you're going to have much, much, much better results. Because again, in trading, simple is always better. The reason you think indicators don't work is because you misuse them. Here's how you use them the right way to go ahead and give you much better results. I'll see you all in the next video.